to start with just explaining what SGE is. As Kate mentioned, stands for Search Generative Experience, and it's essentially Google trying to utilize AI more and showing AI content at the top of the search results. We're also seeing like different placements of the links and what the experience is within those AI generated snippets, which we'll go into in more detail. Unlike previous SERPs, they are generated by Google's AI chatbot. So it's not pulling from a specific site. Previously, we've had featured snippets that show something from a specific site and a link there. This is created by AI or generated, and then including some links and often informational as well as transactional links, depending on the query. That's on a basic level what it is.
And then one other thing to note, Lindsay, with where it is and what it is, right now it's in beta, right? So the screenshots that you're seeing are from our team because we've opted into the beta test that Google is running on this. And although you may not see that in your SERP, it is live and available for users to see if they opt into this experience during testing. So that's what you're seeing in these images to the right. If you haven't seen that before, or maybe you've played around with it already, opting in is how people are experiencing this right now.
Yeah, we don't know. Google has not announced a release date. So as you mentioned, it's in beta testing. We don't know when it will be released. We also don't know what it will look like in a finalized format. For example, when they were first testing it out, the full snippet was right available at the top. Now they're using more of a show more for at least most of the queries, like a show more button that you can then click to see the full snippet. So that's less intrusive to our usual search results that we've seen. Also, as we'll go into a little bit more when we get to how it might affect paid, we're often seeing ads at the top as well, or we might see the snippet further down the page. So they're really testing out where they want it to be. So we don't yet know what kind of form it'll actually be released in or when it will. They haven't announced either of those, but we're keeping an eye on it. And from what we do know and some of the consistent things we've seen as we've gone through the beta version, there's still some takeaways and action items that are good and important to jump on. Now, as we go into e-commerce, this is another one that's seen a lot of shifts from what we can see so far in the beta testing. So one example that we looked at is when we searched used camera. As you can see here, there's an AI snippet of what to consider when you're buying a used camera, and then informational links to the right there on desktop, and then also a shopping experience where they're linking to specific products and going to kind of those Google results of the products oftentimes beneath there. So this is a very big change. Again, we likely will see ads at the top, but typically we then see category pages coming up for these from specific sites for people to click through. So this is definitely a big change. Having that information come up is a little more unusual for a query like this, and having that content. In addition, typically, especially for a broader query like used cameras, it's very broad. We wouldn't typically see right at the top product pages. So Google, from what we can see, is looking to bring that shopping experience within their search results. And so product pages are going to be coming up more for certain broader terms where we might expect category pages. Category pages will likely also rank, but depending on how people interact with this kind of snippet, we're often seeing product pages within the snippet there. You can also see that, for example, in the product page part or in the products part, they have little tags that are good for beginners and ones like that, and coming up with images within there. So those are a couple changes as well. So this is a really key strategy for e-commerce businesses, is the product pages. They're always important, but often for those broader terms, category pages will still be important, but it wasn't typically coming in with these product pages as we might expect them to come in the snippets more. We really want to make sure we're focusing on product page optimizations, making sure those pages are built out, really highlight the features and benefits. They're not pulling in from what we can see those tags from a page. So having like tag best for beginners isn't going to bring it in, but the more information you can provide about a product and its benefits and its features, that's going to further inform Google. That includes product and review schema markup as well, to make sure they have that information, and making sure your images have image SEO best practices. For example, on just a kind of basic level, making sure they have alt text that's clear what the product is kind of the basic one, of course, and then image SEO, sometimes the file descriptions, file names, ones like that. We saw there was informational links there coming up for more for these queries. So making sure you have content that fills those needs is going to be very beneficial. So that can be building out hub and spokes around specific products. Like you have the Nikon D90 and potentially doing longer tail keyword strategies around that product, or those types of products as well, will be really valuable.
An example there for folks that aren't familiar with the hub and spoke strategy, Lindsay, would be, right, the Nikon D90. Well, what is that used to shoot? Is it used to shoot weddings? Is it used to shoot landscape? And then building out content around that that's related to the product that you're focused on, but it's tangentially connected, right? So we're trying to give more information about that product and how it's used in the real world. And that is the hub being the product and the spokes around it being all the information about how it's getting used. It's a common strategy we like to use here to really build up and beef up these product pages and how they're interlinked on the site as well. So we've talked about this throughout, but right now we're in testing mode. And when we test, at first we weren't seeing any paid ads above the SGE banner. That is just something that we can't believe, because Google always prioritizes its revenue stream. There's no way that shareholders would be very happy with pushing Google ads down the page underneath a colorful, fun to interact with, lots of link banner. So our thoughts are, I'm not on the product team, but that the ads will remain at the top. We don't believe that Google is banking on a scroll depth of 3 or 4 thumb flicks or several clicks down the page to get to that. We do believe that the ads will be at the top. I do think e-com is going to experience a lot of this change. Google is liking playing with the products in SGE. Lindsay had some great examples of that with the PDP pages being pulled in there, being able to categorize them. I imagine that Google's going to have a lot more of those results available than they are something that has to do with your money, your life, things that are a little bit more dicey to leave up to AI. So if you're in a medical field and looking for lead generation, it might have a lesser impact than someone who is selling a product online. So for those in the e-com space, it is going to be important to make sure that your Google Merchant Center is up and running, that you have control over it or an agency in charge, and that your product data feed is ready to go, inputting your products in there. That's going to increase the chance of getting organic product listings appearing in SGE if they end up putting those organic listings in there. For those not familiar, Google does have some free shopping listings that are generated through the Google Merchant Center, and you can track those in there. So it will be important to get all your products uploaded in there, whether through a data feed like through the back end of your Shopify, or just a static feed that you download and then upload to that center. You also just want to hook up everything you can. So Google Search Console to Google Ads, make sure your Google Ads is hooked up to your Google Analytics. You want the whole Google ecosystem from a data perspective to be talking to each other. This is kind of a strategy outside of SGE, but I think it's also going to help give you some data and information moving forward for optimizations within shopping. And as we progress into this being in a live space, maybe Google starts offering ads in this box. So you want to be prepared with having your products up and ready to go there. I think really that hits on the main points for PPC as far as it's concerned. Again, Google's not going to take their revenue stream and push it down the page. So really this is about just making sure that you've got a strategy to stay up there and be visible. So we talked about a lot. We talked about a lot that's in a beta, right? So we're still learning we're always testing, and we love when we're able to test something that's not fully live yet. It's going to be an important shift in how Google SERPs look. Both Lindsay and I have been in SEO for over a decade. We've been through large shifts in the SERPs before. The most important thing to know about SEOs is that we don't scare easily. We know that Google tests things at a large scale and then often pulls back what they're actually going to release. All that said, we want to be proactive. We want to be flexible. You want to have a roadmap with your SEO agency or team that is putting priority on some of the things we've discussed today, things that are core to SEO already, schema markup, making sure your images are optimized. These are things that are important anyway, but just become a little bit more of a priority as we move closer to something like this being released. So this isn't an alarm. This isn't a fire drill, but it is time to prioritize getting some of these things in place and having a plan. The other big thing is 2024 planning is already coming up. I'm sure some of you are in budget talks or already wrapping some of those up. It's important to know that SEO is going to have to, be part of those conversations, and that KPIs might need to be flexible moving into 2024. If a big billboard lands on top of everything, as we saw in some of those SERP results, click-through rate further down the page is going to go down. You're going to see a decrease in site traffic overall, but that will be not only to you, it'll be to your competitors as well, as Google is giving that information prior to someone being enticed to click. So these are things to think about as you're moving forward into 2024 planning. I know Alex Jewell on our SEO team as well has come up with some ideas about doing analysis on different top pages for traffic and making sure that you have a real good understanding about the pages that are driving your traffic right now, and planning for or doing some analysis on what might be affected the most as we move forward towards something like this. Sometimes knowing brings comfort to all. And so doing some of those deep dives now can help you understand and expect what might change as this rolls out.